Everybody that teaches baseball should teach throwing. It's an absolutely integral part of the game. Like the guy in Bull Durham said, you catch the ball, you throw the ball, you hit the ball. It's really surprising to me that very few academies teach throwing. I don't understand it. It's a game changer. Players like Al Kaline in the past, Rocky Colavito, obviously Clemente. These are guys that changed games with their defense. Recently, the guy with the rifle arm is probably Rick Ankiel, has an outstanding arm. These are guys that could change the game with their arm. Infielders like Sean Dunston, Brooks Robinson, Rodriguez. These are guys that can change a game with their arms, and yet nobody teaches it. As we know, defense wins games. They'll get them going with some infield drills or outfield on how to catch, but very few people talk about throwing and proper mechanics. Not only is it a game changer, it's a huge part of the arsenal. It's a huge weapon defensively, but it is also something that if you don't do properly is injurious. One of the reasons, the major reason probably, that throwing is so difficult to do, I can think of at least 2 or 3 reasons. First off, anatomically, your arm actually is built to work like this. You're not designed to throw a baseball like this. Your body is actually built to throw underhand. So this in and of itself is difficult. The second thing is that, again, it is non-instinctive. When you go to throw, most kids will improperly balance themselves, meaning they will come to a throwing position, even if a good athlete will come to a throwing position where he's in the middle, and that's incorrect for throwing because we need to be on the back on what a pitching instructor would call your post leg. So once we get the ball, we have to learn to balance ourselves like this here rather than the middle. Again, non-instinctively. Second thing, competition requires 2 things that make it difficult, and that is accuracy. So most players, young players especially, will get down here and point or aim the ball. Again, this is the instinct. Last thing is, because you're competing, your instinct tells you to rush, hurry, do it fast, do it strong. And almost all problems are caused by that. In order to learn to throw correctly, we have to work against those natural instincts. We have to learn to open up our shoulder cavity and get up here, get our arm long and loose and be in appropriate leverage positions. And finally, and this is very, very important, we have to learn to slow it down. Now, I'm using the word slow it down to get your attention. We actually don't slow it down. We need to change the rhythm. We don't accelerate from here, we accelerate from the front. So it means we have to change our tempo to, again, something that is non-instinctive. Not only non-instinctive, but contrary to our natural instincts. The way to conceive in a sentence of what throwing is it is a rhythmic sequence of correct positions. Our rhythm has to be controlled. It has to be contrary to, again, our natural instincts where we want to rush. We have to slow down our front side and control it, because here is the sequence of correct positions. When I throw correctly, my lower body is first. I have to achieve this balance position. My lower body turns and delivers my front side. My front side consists, just to make it simple, let's think of it as points of my ankle, my knee, my hip, most importantly, my shoulder. So whether that's translated out to a glove or an elbow, it's my shoulder is just like the rifle barrel. It's what aims. My shoulder, my front side delivers my upper body. Let me do that toward the camera. My upper body to a square position where I'm facing the target. My front side delivers my arm. So again, lower body, think feet, delivers my front side. My front side delivers my upper body delivers my arm. There's your sequence. All throwing problems, again, are because of rushing, being out of that sequence. Now here's the interesting thing, is because it is a sequence, then the law that says that the stress goes to the weakest link You can see from this that obviously my legs are stronger than my arm. My upper body, my shoulders, my trunk is stronger than my arm. So in actuality, the last thing in my sequence is my arm, and my arm is also the weakest link in that sequence. So if I don't do these things properly, and once again, if I don't do them instinctively, I have to retrain my body. We have to retrain the athlete to do this correctly. If I don't do it correctly, then the stress goes to the weakest link. The stress goes to the arm. Finally, when I started doing this, when I started teaching throwing and I made it integral to my program, a couple of interesting things. Number one, a friend of mine named Kevin Morton, who pitched for the Red Sox in the big leagues, told me that I would find throwing is more difficult to teach than hitting. I kind of laughed at him because I said, impossible. Hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in all of sports. But over time, I found that he is correct because the reasons that I stated. Second thing I did was that I started researching this, and I found two really good programs. I found a series of tapes by a gentleman named Luis Ortiz, who is a roving instructor for the Cleveland Indians. He has a couple of tapes which are really good. And second of all, more importantly, I hooked up with Alan Jaeger. Alan runs a school in California really devoted primarily to throwing. It's called Jaeger Sports. He has some training tools, and he has programs that are used by Clayton Kershaw, Barry Zito, Dan Heron, innumerable universities, professionals, great stuff. What we're going to do is when we show you throwing things, we're going to constantly refer to these programs, which are terrific.